Okay, so let's see. Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Geez, I didn't remember it took this
They
long.
can download an assessment.
All right, so we can tell them that before we end it. Okay, so
I think it's actually it's okay. It's not too bad if I remember right.
okay, I think we're live here. It looks like we're live.
It says we're live on my screen.
Yes, it's okay. So hopefully people can see us. It's kind of interesting. So, hello to everybody who's here. And what I will say is this is the first time that I am using Zoom to do a Facebook Live. So if I seem slightly confused about the technology, I will get used to it, hopefully. Oh, and I can see people are telling me that we are live. So that's good. It's throwing me off slightly. I think there's a little bit of a delay between what I'm saying and what I'm seeing in the screen, but I think that's okay. We will get used to that. So what I'm going to do is just start by saying welcome to everybody who's here. Thank you for coming. I love doing these interviews, and I am really excited about today's interview as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Donna Leyens, and I co-founded Pumpkin Plan Your Biz with best-selling author Mike Michalowicz in 2012. Gosh, it's been a long time. Pumpkin Plan Your Biz, our company, provides training and certification in our proven business growth process that is based on the strategies in Mike's book, The Pumpkin Plan. And hopefully you've all read The Pumpkin Plan. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. So our program gives business coaches, consultants, and strategists the ability to easily and consistently deliver high-value results to their clients. I am so thrilled to be here today with one of our awesome Pumpkin Plan strategists, Brad Williams, who is the co-founder of Structured to Grow. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks for having me, Donna. I appreciate it. I just noticed that my Zoom name still says Brad and Nikki, and I'm
Okay, so
gonna
you're
change
two
that
people.
for this meeting. It's just Brad today.
Just Brad today, but Nikki's with us in spirit.
That's right.
So what I want to say about Brad is that he understands that most established entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs have built their businesses basically through pure grit and determination. And I'm sure all of you can relate to that. If you can relate to grit and determination, give me a hell yeah in the comments. But unfortunately, what happens is it can become very frustrating when you're unsure of what your next steps are to grow to the next level. So Brad's company, Structured to Grow, uses proven frameworks such as the Pumpkin Plan to help business owners strategically develop and implement a plan to hit their growth goals. So Brad and his partner, Nikki, who is a StoryBrand certified guide, they guide their clients to success by focusing on how to attract, connect, and convert the right client with the right message. So before we jump into the interview, I would just like to know who here has experience with marketing funnels. You know, the topic today is marketing funnels, and I just want to get a sense of, like, are you all brand new to marketing funnels? Are you old hands at marketing funnels? Are you somewhere in the middle? So just let us know if you've been using marketing funnels or are just starting to use marketing funnels. And because we're going to be talking about marketing funnels, I guess the best place to start, Brad, is with a very simple question. What is a marketing funnel?
Well, it can be pretty simple. Good news is everybody's doing it to some extent. Every business that is getting customers has a funnel to some extent, and you could simply define it as the process by which someone goes from awareness the first time they become aware of your business, your service, your company, to when they become a customer, and really all the way until they become a repeat customer, raving fan, source of referrals. It can go pretty deep. So a marketing funnel is what you're doing, what's happening, the process that takes someone along what's called a customer journey. And that's probably the simplest way to define what a marketing funnel is.
Okay, great. So now that we know what a marketing funnel is, what is the biggest problem that people run into when they are either setting up a funnel or just with their marketing in general? Why don't we just start there? And if you want to just give us a shout out in the comments, like, is anybody here frustrated because their marketing maybe isn't working the way you want it to?
I think that's a really interesting question, and there's so many ways that I can answer that. So couple of different perspectives here on funnels. One is the way that people think of marketing funnels, the reason it doesn't work. And I think it's a great illustration. When people think of marketing funnels, they think of something like a program like ClickFunnels, a piece of internet software that puts some steps together that magically creates customers. And so that's how most people define funnels. And when you say, oh, you do stuff with funnels, also, do you use ClickFunnels? And that in itself is part of why when people do funnels, it doesn't work, because they think tactically. They think in a totally little microcosm level. Every business has a funnel. If you have getting customers, you have a funnel. There is some way that people find out about you, right? And then there's some way that they go from finding out about you to learning more about what you do, how it solves their problems, to connecting with you, to potentially interviewing, hiring you, you doing the work, satisfying them, hopefully delighting them, and then them returning as future customers. That process happens. So the problem that people face in their marketing and in those businesses, the people that we all go out there and we just do it by trial and error, right? The problem is we often don't know what we're doing that works and doesn't work, which means there's points in that process that just either happen naturally, they're just kind of happening by default, or there's points in that we don't realize are very broken. So the problem we think of when we think of installing marketing, or I need a funnel in my marketing, is usually we think of it as just a short segment in that journey. And if I can put a piece of software or a tactic to one part of that, it's going to solve my marketing. And that's the mistake. So, I think that's kind of the easy way to say the mistake. And I think you got to think about it holistically.
Yeah, and you're speaking my language, Brad, because I know that at Pumpkin Plan Your Biz, we're all about strategy. And usually when your marketing isn't working, it's because you are focusing on the tactics and not the strategy. And you need the underlying strategy first. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, that like knowing how to technically set up an online funnel doesn't mean that you are automatically like going to start getting zillions of clients going through your funnel.
No, one part of marketing is the ease. Sometimes you call that the length of a customer journey on site, or the user experience that somebody has, the ease by which purchases are made. And it does matter. It's an important piece to figure out in your business. You don't want to make things hard for people, but it's one piece of it. So I'm glad you brought up Pumpkin Plan. So I think that brings up, how should we think about it, right? Like, okay, don't think about it in the tactics. You got to zoom out. And so I had a conversation with one of our fellow Pumpkin Plan strategists, and I want to give him credit for saying this back to me. It is a simple and basic thing. And he said, we can't forget that the purpose of this, I'm talking to Mark Kudrag, I want to give him credit. Can't forget that the purpose of marketing is to drive demand for your business. So that's what marketing is. Marketing is to drive demand, right? And so to me, that means that we should approach it from a goal-oriented place. So marketing should drive sales. If you are a Pumpkin Plan follower, you know that your marketing shouldn't just drive sales, it should also drive profit. And it can. And that's the cool thing. Like you can start making profit before your customer gets there by how you market. So that means you have to answer some questions, right? So these are some, I think there's some pumpkin plan principles that everybody could apply, no matter what your business is, that will make your marketing better. It'll make it, one, more profitable from like the sales you get more profitable, and it will make the ROI on the time and money you invest in your marketing better. And so there's a couple of questions that you have to answer. And if you can't answer these questions, anything else we do or discuss or we ask or any of those tactics are almost irrelevant. And that is, who am I talking to and what am I offering them?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And if we don't know the answer to that, or if we think we know the answer to that, but maybe that they don't fit together, then we have a problem, right?
Exactly. So what I love about pumpkin planning is that it puts a mechanism. It's not just like my gut and my opinion, because what I found is most clients' gut is not accurate. What they think that they should do or what they think is going on is not the full picture. So what pumpkin plan is cool is it actually has a process that takes your opinion and puts it in its place and creates a measurement stick for this to come up with two things, right? Your ideal client, which there's a lot of things about an ideal client. You know, one, they shouldn't be the drain on your life and business resources. You know, they should be a pleasure to work with, but then they also should be profitable. And then the second question is the right product, right? The right offering. If you're a service business, I guess you call it an offer. If you sell a product, it's a product, but offering them something. And so your products should be a function of, one, what your client needs, and two, what is profitable. And once we answer those questions, then we can go back through and start answering, how do you put together a funnel behind them, right? How do you,
Yeah.
and so then I think there's several pieces. I think that makes up a couple of the building blocks in the attract part of a funnel. Who am I talking to and what am I offering them? Because once I know that, I know where to find the right person. The question, here's my thought, and the question is not, should I do SEO? Should I do Facebook? Should I do Instagram or Pinterest? Or should I do pay-per-click advertising? Or should I advertise in this magazine? That's the wrong question. The right question is, where are my ideal clients at? And then that determines that advertising or attraction tactic, right? So what I use to get in front of them determines who I'm talking to. A ClickFunnels campaign to sell a product that has a neat little upsell to it works for a certain person and a certain product, but it doesn't work for every person and every product, right? You know, my business thrives on referrals and thrives on relationships. I think pumpkin plan strategist businesses is in general thrive on these relationships, and your business probably does too. So if you probably shouldn't be making a leap in your thought of, well, all of my customers have come from trusted business referrals. Other professionals have referred them, but now I want to get all my new customers with cold advertising on Facebook.
Right. Right.
So
Doesn't make a lot of sense, right?
it doesn't. And
well, I'd be curious to just know, like, if you guys could just post in the comments, where do most of your customers come from? I would love to know that. Like, is it mostly referrals? Are you doing advertising? And if you're doing advertising, is it online advertising or more traditional offline advertising? So I'd just love to know, like, kind of what kind of mix we have in the audience, because I think the whole referral thing, Brad, is a very interesting phenomenon, because we all love this idea that our clients love us so much that they're referring us to other people. At the same time, we have no control or very little control over the flow of referrals. So we could get a whole bunch of referrals one month and have no new referrals the next month, and that may not match our availability or our capacity. So having an idea of how to attract people in, how to attract customers in at will is really important. And even if you're using referrals as your primary funnel, who's controlling that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of my favorite things again, and maybe you teed me up for this, but I'll take it because I agree. One of the things that you think about is the best source of consistent referrals is probably not your clients. They're a great source. Raving fans, if your service creates raving fans, it will grow your business. But probably your best source of consistent referrals is other professionals. So I actually co-own another business with my father that thankfully I don't have to work in anymore, but I used to work in every day and I used to be the primary salesperson for it. And it's a home inspection business. And I don't know who understands the business or whatever, but I'll give you kind of a brief overview. What most people have figured out in that business is the way you get business in that business is to make relationships with real estate agents.
Yes.
Real estate agents need you over and over and over again. And so even though they are never, ever your customer, their customers are your customer. So having a relationship with agents creates consistent ongoing business. And it's just that simple. The cool thing is, while that's a very natural thing in that industry, it works in a whole lot of other businesses too. The other people that serve your ideal client would love to have relationships with other businesses that also serve those clients. So it's a great source of referrals. The other way that we can get in front of people is to find out where they spend time. And that's how we determine the advertising tactic, right? Another conversation, I had been talking a lot with Mark here lately, but we were talking about how we both disagree with this concept of brute force advertising. It's the idea that if I pay enough money and just force myself in front of a large enough group of people, that people will come do business with me. And that is the most inefficient way to do business, but that's how we think of advertising. And I think it's interesting, we live in 2021 and we're about to make a shift into a realm that is almost beyond where my mind can go. And yet most of us are living back, when we think of advertising to small business owners, we think of 1960s technology. We put it on the television or we put it in the magazine with no control over who sees it, what happens, measuring it, driving it. And we can't think that way. We got to think as small businesses, we have to use our resources better than that. So,
well, and that goes back to the whole ROI of your marketing, right? So if you know who your ideal clients are, you know what they want to hear from you, and you know where they hang out, then your marketing can be extremely targeted. And you're going to get a better return on investment because you can invest less, show up more, right? Like that's another issue with marketing. You can't expect to put up one Facebook ad or Facebook post, and now you're getting a zillion clients from that. Like marketing is appearing over and over again.
It is. The author of StoryBrand, Don Miller, his definition of marketing is an exercise in memorization. And the best way to memorize something is through repetition. So therefore, a marketer must be very good at repetition if they would like to have their audience memorize or learn what it is they're saying. And so when we think about how hard, that's a challenge. We have to be honest with ourselves. That's a real challenge in today's world. Average consumer, 3,000 to 5,000 commercial messages a day are fired at them.
Wow, that's
3,000
to
5,000. It seems unrealistic because our brain is working really, really hard to shut most of them out. So your challenge as a small business who's marketing themselves or as a marketer is to get people's attention. Right. And so right place, right time, over and over and over again is what it takes. And so that's kind of the first piece, right? We got to know where to go find them. And then we got to get in front of them over and over again. And that kind of naturally brings us to the next piece. How do we stand out in the crowd? And so this is the piece that is amazing. The best companies do this, whereas most people don't. And that is understanding the role that messaging can play. It's the next piece when you think about what is make a good funnel. Once I know where to find people and whether I'm paying or I'm organically getting in front of them regularly, how do I actually get their attention? It's the difference. If I were to have a billboard on the side of the highway and I were to make it flash neon green, I would guarantee everyone that drove by would see it, but it would mean nothing.
Right.
It would promote no action, right? So the message is what's on the billboard, right? And so how do we cut through attention? And I think the thing is we have to be able to talk to people in a way that we poke at their problems. People love to talk about their problems. And if you talk about their problems, they'll listen to you.
Yeah. And I think we have to be able to talk about their problems succinctly and in their terms. So a lot of us, I think we got drawn into this marketing jargon, and we see what other people write, and we like the way something sounds. So we say, oh,
Yeah,
this is a great message, but it doesn't connect necessarily with your target audience because you're not talking about whatever their challenge or problem is in their language.
right. Right. I think one of the things that we see a lot is people use these very vague aspirational phrases on things. And that's one of the most common ways that marketers, it sounds really good, find your wings, live your dreams,
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yes.
Whatever silly phrase. And the problem is that doesn't mean anything to anyone. And if it doesn't
No.
mean, we filter that out. Like that gets thrown in the bucket with thousands of other things that we have to filter out. So it's like you said, you got to talk to people in their language. That's the other beauty of knowing who you're talking to. Every person, when you dial in on that, people call it avatar, or is it jargon in the marketing world. When you dial in on that ideal client, who they have a specific talk, they have a specific set of problems, they have a specific lifestyle, they have a lot of things. And you start talking into that. You talk to them where they are, about what they're facing. And the trick to this is to agitate their feelings about it and to let them know why it's just plain wrong that they have to live like that. That gets
Right.
somebody's attention.
Like, in other words, we know this is bugging you, or this is a problem for you, and you shouldn't have to deal with it. And we have a solution.
You
Yeah.
deserve better.
Yeah.
You don't deserve that. You
Right.
deserve better. And everybody's like, you're darn right, I deserve better.
Okay. So here's the thing, whether you're doing this like through other businesses that are promoting you, or you're doing it online, once you've got their attention, what's the next step in the funnel? And I love this idea that we're really targeting the people that we want to attract. We're not just targeting anybody who wants to grow their wings or whatever. Whatever that phrase was, right? We're really looking for a specific type of client that's the right fit for our business. And okay, now we've got their attention. What do we do next?
The next thing we need to do is inspire curiosity. Curiosity drives a lot of action, because every time we get in front of somebody, and this is kind of a known marketing thing, but maybe it's not known to everyone. But every time we get in front of somebody, wherever that is, we need to have a clear next step. So what the next step is to make sure someone knows what the next step is and make it irresistible. Make the next step irresistible.
Call to action, right?
Call to action.
We're talking about the call to action. And sometimes those call to action, they're too vague, or they're too tentative, right? Like, we're almost afraid to say, we want you to do this. So we'll be like, hey, learn more, or join us here, or, like something that doesn't inspire a specific, like, here's your next step, right?
Exactly. So that's the beauty of, I think, when you think of things in curiosity. So when you inspire someone's curiosity in the message, then you want to invite them into the next step. This is where you have to know your customer. Again, you see where this information of knowing your customer, it comes into play constantly in marketing. And you have to know your customer, and you have to know your business's purchase cycle. How long does it take from someone to find out about you to be ready to do business with you? If I sell a very simple transactional item, that might be very short. The call to action might be click to buy, right? An item that's, and this is very different industry to industry, but say the item is under $20 it is a total impulse purchase, click to buy. But if you offer a professional service to companies that requires them to change the way they do business, and a lot of us small businesses do business, B2B business, it requires us to change. We understand that that might take several conversations and a lot of trust building. So our call to action won't be click to buy. What we're looking to do is to likely inform people. So once you have curiosity, then you can inform them, you can give them information. And this is your first opportunity to make real connection. And that message is connection, but your real first opportunity to make connection is by giving them value. And so I think that's the next piece, right? Once you make that call to action, for most businesses that are not simply transactional, smaller items, impulse items, need items, the next thing is give them value. Are we good?
Yeah, sorry, I clicked
Okay.
something and I'm sorry. Keep going.
Okay. No,
I did the technology, I almost messed up the technology, but we're good.
Okay.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
so give them value. And this is where you put in one of the best ways to do this is where you put content. So this is where the blog article comes in, the video comes in, something that you provide at little or no cost that helps them with this problem.
Now somebody just said, what do you mean by that? I'm not sure which thing. And then, oh, okay. Give them value. Can you elaborate? That's a good question.
Okay, yeah. So you can think about it like this. So let's use, like right now it's tax time, right? And thank goodness they've extended taxes, right? So you might have your attraction, right? Might say tax season got you down, right? Question: tax season got you down? I'd say most of us are like, yes. Are tax season overwhelming? Yes, it is overwhelming. Then the next step might be like, find 7 tips to make your corporate taxes a breeze this year. Click here to find out how, right? Oh man, I'd love to make my taxes a breeze, right? So then what I might lead them to is an article or a download that gives them that simple information. And the better I am at delivering it and the higher value they feel to starting to ease that pain, the more I'm increasing my value in their eyes, which is the other purpose of marketing, right? Marketing manipulates perceived value. So when I help them, right? So this article that gives them 7 legitimate tips, not 7 calls to action, but 7 legitimate tips to help them with their taxes. And they get down to the end, and I'm like, if you need a consultation, call here to set up a free consultation. It's like, well, this person can help me because they gave me good advice here. I like this. And you know what? I want help, which everybody does. That's how you do the provide value to draw them in.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good point. If you're doing this online, because people click around to different sites so frequently, they might find something on your site interesting and leave your site and then not remember how to find it again. So I think it's recommended, if you are going to give away information, to collect their email so that you can continue the conversation.
So there's several tactics here that we can discuss, and online is very relevant to all of us. So one, ultimately, you want to get people on your list. Your most valuable marketing asset is your list. Yeah. Number 2, never let anyone tell you that email marketing is dead. They are wrong.
Right. Let's say this once and for all, email marketing is not dead.
It is. It's hilarious to me. I actually have this conversation every once in a while with somebody, and they'll be like, well, my expert friend says that email marketing doesn't work. And I'm thinking, only because they don't know how to do it. Of course it works. Here's the beauty of email marketing is everybody still uses email. I mean, there'll become a time when they won't. There will come a time when we stop communicating that way. But for the foreseeable future, everybody uses email. And once someone's on your list, it is free to communicate with them.
Yeah, and I think we should emphasize this, that the email marketing is an integral part of your funnel, right?
For
And
most businesses,
for most businesses. And you could say like, oh, I have all these Facebook followers or Twitter followers, or I have a Facebook group where I interact with people, and that's great for building those touches, but you don't own any of that. And once they're on your email list, I mean, they can unsubscribe, of course, but once they're on your email list, you have control over how frequently you contact them. Whereas on, let's say, Facebook, you can make a post and you don't really know how many of your followers are going to see that post. It's dependent on the Facebook algorithms that day, or what's that?
the mystery.
The mystery
Yeah,
algorithm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you put something out into social media, you're making a great point here. And a great foundation, if you want to, you know that you have to be in front of people regularly for them to remember you, for them to learn your message, for them to think about you at all when it's time to purchase. You want to be in control of that. You want to do it in your house, not theirs. You know, no one would ever build their own house on someone else's land.
Hopefully not.
Not a smart person.
No.
Because you know what? Those people can take your house away. It's not your house. You built it on their land.
No.
You know, and you want to build your marketing house on your property, and an email is your property. The truth is, most of us are not going to recreate a Facebook. And I don't really recommend that we all build our own private communities to have that contact. It's a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. But what you can do, and everybody can do for free, is you can use email. And it's something I recommend. I have yet to deal with a business in our business that can't benefit from some form and some level of email marketing. So get somebody on your list. That's number one. That's when you really have control over it. The second thing you can do is, because of the beauty of data collection, which you may feel like it's a bad word, you may feel like it's an opportunity. As a marketer, too, it's been a huge opportunity, and it's going to continually shift and change. But what we do have the ability to do is to follow people around. And so if someone comes in contact, you do want to have forward-facing content. There's tons of benefits to that. And by forward-facing, I mean content that someone doesn't have to enter their email in to get to. Google knows the difference, right? Google knows the difference between content that sits on a web page that somebody can just access, and something someone has that's gated, that's behind a fence of, I have to give you something to get it, right? So you do want that ungated content. What you can do with your blog articles is you can follow people around with retargeting. And if you are going to invest in digital advertising, it is step one. Retargeting is step one. Why? One, because someone has already raised their hand as someone is interested in the subjects which you've put out there, which are about you, about your topic of expertise. And two, it's much, much cheaper because you're only advertising to people who have raised their hand.
Right. Exactly. So they're not a cold lead anymore. They're a warm lead.
They're warmer. They're definitely warmer.
Yeah.
So, and there's tons of tactics to do that. But that being said, that is another way that we can make sure to stay in front of people. But you're absolutely right. You know, people come and go. I read articles on websites. I have no idea what they are all the time, and never will go to that website again.
No, and you'll say, "Oh, what was that article that I read? I wish I could find it again." Yes, but once, and the other thing is that if you are, let's say you're blogging and you have captured emails, then every time you write a new blog, you can send an email and say, hey, I have more great free information for you. And it keeps your email list engaged.
And you know what I think is interesting about all this is that the stuff we've discussed so far is not so much revolutionary. The problem is most people aren't doing it, and they're not connecting all the pieces. And that a lot of times is that other thing that falls apart. People do one piece. They get in control of one thing. You know, probably the marketing phenomenon digitally over the last 10 years, or maybe even a little longer, is SEO marketing to the Google search engine, right? We're talking to a machine to put ourselves in front of people. And what most SEO efforts forget is that when they click that link, on the search results, a person has to go to the website on the other end. And when a person gets to that website, no one has considered how that person is going to feel or what that experience is when they click. No one's even thinking about it. They're just thinking about, does the website talk to Google well? Well, Google doesn't buy your products and services. You still have to talk to a person. I had someone who professes themselves to be a marketing expert tell me, it doesn't matter if the information's relevant, that's enough. What? No, it's not enough.
So what you're saying, Brad, is that we need to think through the whole process.
Yes.
So we don't want to just think, oh, how do I attract people to click on my link? But we want to know, like, what is our ultimate goal? What experience am I going to send them through once they click that link?
Mhm.
What's the next step and the next step? And if they don't do this, then maybe they go this way. And if they do that, maybe they go a different way,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
how do
That's the funnel.
you
That's the
figure
funnel.
that out? Like, how do you map that out? Do you have a
Right.
tool that you use, or?
This is what we call marketing strategy. This is where we start with a client when we're working with them. The best place to look, and so I can tell you how to do it, and you can do this on your own, right? The best place to look is how people are already doing business with you, and deconstruct that. Put it on a whiteboard, put it on a piece of paper, do it in a flow chart maker, whatever your method of drawing it out is, and draw out how your customers interact with you now. How do they find you? What steps do they take? Draw it out all the way beginning to end to when they become a repeat customer. And you want to position as a part of your marketing is positioning your products so they do become repeat customers. It's really, really hard to build a business on a bunch of one-time customers.
Right. Yeah, unless you have the kind of business where people only do the thing one time.
It makes it a harder
Like
business.
weddings, although, well, people do have more than one wedding, but hopefully not really close together. But yeah.
My advice is if you want to make your life easier as a business owner, figure out some repeatable portion of your business.
Absolutely.
In some capacity. And that may require a lot of creativity. You know, in the funeral business, that's really hard. Right.
Yeah.
But point B is map that journey out. How do people want to find me now? And so then you want to look for two things. One, where is it broken? And there's a pretty good chance that some of those pieces you have a feeling for if you'll actually look at them. I get 10 phone calls, first phone calls, but I'm only converting one of them. And of those 10 people that call, they all are perfect customers and they need what I have. That's a broken piece in your funnel, right?
Yeah.
And then we can figure out, once we know the broken pieces, we can figure out, okay, where do we need to repair what's going on? I have SEO. I have the best SEO person, and they've worked for the last 5 years, and I'm the #1 ranked person on Google. And I get thousands of hits to my website, but 99% of them bounce right off. We found a broken place in the funnel, right? So this part of the assessment is you find things that are broken and you shore them up. And this is why I can't recommend a single tactic, because you should find where's broken in yours, and then you apply a tool that works for you. And that's where we come in, right? We come in and one, we help you assess what's broken. Second thing you got to do is there will be things that work. You're like, this always works. Then the next question is, how do I amplify it?
How do I amplify it? Right.
And that process is optimization. So that would be step one in a marketing funnel. So if all your business comes through word of mouth, the next step for your business is probably not, and it could be, please prove me wrong. Show me an example where I'm wrong, but it's probably not a ClickFunnels campaign.
So for anybody here who is going, what is this ClickFunnels that Brad keeps talking about? ClickFunnels is a software program that basically will take somebody through the process and automate the whole thing, basically. Did I summarize it well?
So yeah, so you think of it, a ClickFunnels campaign, it would be like they are creating the web pages and the mechanisms, the automations, the mechanisms that connect pages together in a purchase sequence. I see an ad on Facebook for weight loss pills. And I'm like, man, I'd love to lose 10 pounds. So I click on the ad, right? Well, the ClickFunnels page, that ClickFunnels helps you create the web page, And then when you click the next buttons, it's providing the mechanisms to take me through the
Right.
purchase process, right? It's just a tool that what's really interesting is accomplished by many other tools. I use it as an example because people think of it as a marketing funnel. It's not. It's just a tool that you use. If people purchase your products online, you can use it.
Yeah, I mean, I had an experience years ago where I was speaking to a business owner who was struggling to expand her business, and she decided that she was going to hire a marketing company that specialized in setting up ClickFunnels. And so she purchased ClickFunnels and hired this company, and I kept saying to her, you're skipping a step. Like, just because they know how to technically set up ClickFunnels and supposedly they're so great at this, that doesn't mean that you understand who you're attracting, where you find them, you know, what's going to appeal to them. But she hired them anyway, and then was terribly disappointed that it produced nothing for her. And she had invested all of that money.
It is. And so this goes back to, you have to start with the right questions.
You have to start with the right questions, 100%.
I heard something said, and I can't think of who says this. You might know, but they say the quality of our questions determines the quality of our outcomes.
Yeah, 150%. Yes.
And
Yeah,
so,
we have to ask the right questions. And I think that to the world that we live in, everybody talks about tactics. And so we think, like, I remember I used to hear things like, if you're not on, you know, fill in the blank, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, you're leaving money on the table. You're missing an opportunity. You know, you have to be doing, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. But you said this early on, Brad, where are you finding your best clients?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if your best clients are retirees who love to like hang out and play golf and cards, you maybe aren't finding them on Facebook, right? Because they
Definitely
don't
not
know
on
how, they
TikTok.
don't have internet, right?
And that is the right question. You know, there's other ways that you can improve your marketing that are not the ways people are thinking of it. So another thought that I think everybody could take away is, you could go in and you could change nothing about how you're getting in front of people. That may not be the problem. You may need someone to come in who knows how to help you convey your value in words in a way that allows you to raise your prices.
Right.
That may be the marketing strategy that you need, right? You may find out that you get tons of leads and you do a terrible job at following up with them. And so you may need someone to come in who can help you write an email campaign that keeps you in front of people when you forget to do it on your own, right? That automates that for you. And then that's how you use tactics, right? That's how you use tactics. You've got to see the real need. You got to be able to survey the landscape. And you know, I'm not trying to be an advocate of why you need a marketer or anything like that, even though I believe it. And that's why I do what I do. I find that most of us are too close to our own businesses to be able to look across the board and see something that might be a quick and easy fix for you.
Okay, I want to ask a question. How many of the people who are with us right now agree with that maybe you're too close to your business to see, you know, the pieces that need to be fixed, number one, and number two, maybe just to see what makes you unique, what makes you stand out? Because sometimes that's the hardest thing for us to see ourselves when we're in it. So everybody's thanking Nikki because Nikki's been in the comments answering people's
so
questions.
Good at taking care of people like that and answering questions.
She is.
So let me tell you a story that, and I'm telling someone else's story. This is not my story. I wish I could say that these people hired me. A marketer that we know from the story brand community told Nikki and I a story a few months ago, and it really made an impression on me. And he had an entertainment organization, contact him that all of you know who they are, and in the professional wrestling world, right? So had this organization reach out to him about helping them out with their marketing efforts. And you think this organization has a big lot of zeros behind it. You think they have their marketing down. But what he found out when he looked at them was, even though when you see it on TV and people are in the seats, they're only selling about 10% of those seats. Most of them they gave away. And their ticket sales were dismal, even though they had a list of millions and millions and millions of people on an email list, right?
Wow.
So I was like, what's the problem? How can you have so many lists? You're a global brand with a huge amount of following. You're a billion-dollar company. And guy asked him, he said, how many emails are you sending out before an event? And they're like, two, one 6 months before and one like 6 weeks before.
So wait, they've been doing their own marketing this whole time? Is that it? Like internally, and they just
no one ever thought that maybe they needed a more comprehensive email campaign to sell the tickets.
Interesting.
And there was a lot more pieces in that story, but it was that simple. The problem was that simple. It was that obvious. And I'm not saying that any of us are dumb. They're obviously really good business people. You don't build a business like that without knowing a thing or two. But the thing is sometimes we get too close to see. And that's where having someone else who does this every day, and all I think about is marketing strategy. All I think about is how you can improve what you're already doing. Look at it for you. And that's why that can be a really helpful step for businesses. Because sometimes there's like, oh, we could just do this one thing, and you mean it could create a monster improvement? And that's often the case. Most of our clients, there's one or two things they can do. They can create some pretty quick return on their investment.
Well, and I think some of this is going back to the data, as you said, because you can look at whatever process you have now and say, where is the bottleneck, or where are people falling off, right?
Mhm.
So if people are clicking on your ad, let's say, and then they're not doing anything else, they're bouncing off or whatever, you know there's a problem with where they're landing.
Yeah.
But let's say, so so we sell a couple of products on our website, but what we really sell is training and certification for pumpkin plant strategists. So that obviously is it's not a click here to buy, right? But we do have, we have a daily planner that's click here to buy. And we have something else that I'm blanking on. Oh, we have a video course that's click here to buy. So that's a very simple funnel, right? Like they click, they read the information, decide they want it, buy now. But the process of becoming a strategist is a longer process. And what I found was, like, we started by saying, okay, what's the journey that makes sense? And you kind of map it out and you start doing it. And then, for example, I started to notice that what happens is people fill out the application and then they get an email from us saying, next step, book an appointment, book an informational interview, right? And when I started looking at the data, like a high percentage of people were never booking that interview, but I realized we were never following up with them. So if they didn't book an interview, that was the end. And I said, hey, wait a minute. Why don't we put into our process that we have a series of emails that reach out a few times to say, are you still interested? Right. And just doing that created a much higher rate of people booking appointments, because we know what happens, right? You see an email and you go, oh yeah, I'll do that later. And then you forgot. Or maybe you missed the email altogether because you were super busy that day and it got buried, or, you know, all sorts of things can happen. And just that one little tweak increased that movement from one step in the funnel to the next step.
That is a perfect example of what marketing is supposed to, how you're supposed to look at it. Right. It's looking at things, measuring them, and then making appropriate tweaks. One of the greatest marketing books, authors I've ever heard, made a confession, and he said, in the years I've done this, he said, I've gotten to where I think I'm pretty good at what I do. He said, every time I think that my intelligence has gotten so great that I can design a customer journey, design a funnel, design this mechanism for a business and it's going to get great conversion. He said, I'm always surprised when it doesn't work. He said, but that's the point. He said, the point is we take all the best information, we try, and then we look at what's working and what's not working. And we turn, there's like, you imagine you have this great big switchboard, right? And you start flipping switches. And the key is knowing which ones to flip, right? You start adjusting the knobs, adjusting the switches, and that's how you make something that works. For most businesses, and this is why I say this, just to go back to this, is the simplest place to start is look at what's working now. Don't start out in outer space. Don't start out in something you have nothing in. Look at what's working now. Can we make it more profitable? Can we make it convert more? Can we put more customers to it? Doing something we already know how to do, but just doing it better, right? Is there a mistake we're making, right? And answering those simple questions is the first step to upticking your business. And what if doing one of those simple things uptick your business 10, 20, or 30%? That's better than most marketing efforts anyone ever does for you ever.
Yeah.
And then you think about those next steps. Then you think about looking at what's next, looking at what your customers want that you don't provide, or looking at those next pieces. And again, that's another great place to have someone give you advice on how to maneuver that. But starting with what works is always what I recommend. Start looking at what's happening now. And for a brand new business, and I know that question gets asked, and so I'm assuming, let's say someone asks, well, I have a brand new business and I don't have a lot of customers. That's when you got to do competitive research. What's working for the people who do something similar to you?
Right. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. Yeah. But I really like this idea of like, look at what's working and then look at what's not working and tweak that piece that's not working. Like, you don't have to throw the whole thing out.
No.
Right. You just have to look at like what's not working smoothly. And I also think that just this idea of a funnel, like that sounds a little alien. I like to think of it as like the customer journey, right? So what makes sense if you're looking to purchase something, what would make sense to you? So for example, if you are a service provider and you're selling like a $10,000 coaching package or accounting service package or something like that, you're not going to have a buy now button on your website saying, we're the best coaches ever, sign up here. And like, boom, I'm going to give you $10,000. You have to go through a process. Right. But like you said, if you're selling a $20 product, you absolutely can write a few lines and sell that product. So I think that we have to start by looking at, do we have an appropriate know, like, and trust journey for what we're selling as well, right?
Yeah, don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just remember you're marketing to people, right?
Right.
Remember you're marketing to people, and marketing is part of that job. I was talking about perceived value, right? Part of the job is you have to convince people that what the product, what the service is worth more than the money that you're asking them to trade for it. The bigger the purchase, and this is relative, right? When you're asking an enterprise to buy software, that threshold may be in $100,000. When you're asking an individual to purchase a course, that threshold may be $20.
Right.
But finding out like what does it take to talk to that person, and so this is the other piece that's worth understanding, and I don't want to dive into a whole new subject, but understanding how people work, understanding the psychology of people. We want to know a few things. We need to it's understanding things like if we drove to a parking lot, and there were two restaurants in the parking lot, right? And one restaurant was empty and one restaurant had a line out the door. Which restaurant's better?
You perceive that the one with the line out the door is better.
Exactly. And right, wrong, or otherwise, we have to understand that this phenomenon exists, right? The way I price my product, the fact that other people use it, the way that it answers a problem. And so you have to respect that whoever you're talking to as a client, and the better you know them, your actual clients, the better you answer this. What do they need to be ready to take these next steps? And respecting that, and then making your funnel so that it takes them through that process. And for a lot of companies, this may mean 3 or 4 sales calls. If you have a high ticket product that is that it's a big deal, it requires commitment. Sometimes they're both. Sometimes they're high ticket and time commitment. And if you're marketing to a business owner, you better be prepared to go through a process before they're going to be ready to do that.
What also occurs to me, in certain situations, it seems it would also be appropriate to have as part of your funnel a place where you weed out customers or clients that are not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, before you get to the point where you've done 4 sales calls with a potential client that is never going to buy from you, or you're not going to want to work with, right?
Yeah. And so this, I'm enjoying this conversation because you're bringing up these awesome points. Qualification is super important. I think once someone hires you, right, especially if you're someone that provides a service, you realize real quick that there are customers that you really wish had never hired you. And we start by being qualifying. And sometimes that's hard to do, right? Because we want everybody to some extent. And the goal is not to get everyone to click, it's to get the right people to click. And sometimes that can be hard qualifiers. Sometimes I'm actually working with a partner right now, and he's considering buying a dealership for a product. And when they get you on the phone, the first phone call is actually to qualify that you have the money and verify the funds to buy the dealership before the salesman even talks to you.
Yeah.
That's a step a lot of people wouldn't want to have to take, right? They're like, what if that turns somebody off? Well, they're just saying, if you're not at that point, the next step isn't appropriate. And they're qualifying you by saying, you need to show us how you're going to pay for this. Is it cash? Can you show us the financing? Do we need to help you with the finance? But we have to answer this question, and then we can move into the deep sales process.
Yeah, exactly. Tire kickers will waste your time. Mm-hmm. And it makes a lot of sense to make sure that you're talking to the right people. So a good funnel, either subtly or not so subtly, includes those qualifiers.
Right. Repelling is just as important as attracting.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's worth remembering. We don't want everyone to want our product. We don't want everyone to give us a call. We don't want everyone to go through the process, especially if your product requires a lot of personal effort to sell. You want the right people to. And you know what? If you're advertising, so you're advertising online, it's just as important. In fact, you want to start qualifying them before they ever click one time, because you're paying for those clicks.
Right. Very good point. And which goes back to knowing who your ideal client is and how to speak directly to them.
That is
just
the key.
Brings us back around.
It does. So that's why we like to say, this is why we say attract, connect, convert. One, you got to know who, where, what, right? And then you got to know the message. How do we talk to them? What does that look like? And then 3, what pieces need to be in there? How do we lay that out on a customer journey to convert, that makes people want to buy? And that's why we say that. It's nothing fancy. It's not meant to be jargon. It's just to remind us of the boxes we need to check as we think about growing new customers and marketing for someone's business.
Yeah. And what I also want to say is, like, this is, it's not an easy process. So nobody should feel like, oh, I should just automatically know how to do this. It is a process of learning and sort of refining and tweaking. And I'm also going to say, and I kind of said this earlier when I said it's hard to see yourself the way other people see you. There's an expression that I love, which is, you can't see the label on the jar that you're in. And it's a perfect reason to hire somebody from the outside to help you with this. Because if you're good, like if you're a marketing company and you're good at what you do, it won't take you long to zero in on what stands out about the company that you're working with and how to market them. But if you're inside the business, you just are too inundated with everything that you know about the business to sort out what's, sort of what's important and what is just important in my head.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So in the description up top above the video, I do have Brad's website, and I see Nikki.
everybody, that is Nikki.
This is the Nikki.
Here
She's
answering
been just
questions.
invisibly commenting, but here she is. So Brad, what will they find? So let's start a marketing funnel right now. What will they find when they go to Structured to Grow? Do you know?
Yeah, so they'll find a little bit more about us. The one site I probably visit least is my own. And if you scroll down to the bottom, we have a little marketing assessment that you can download that will help you figure out where you are, what holes you have, what are the next steps. And we think that that'll kind of help you get going in your marketing journey. Feel good that you know how to market your business. You do, because you've gotten yourself to where you are now.
Exactly.
You sold your products to where you are now. The funnels, all the pieces of this help you get to that next level, right? And that's what we help companies with. So I think that resource will be valuable. Structuredtogrow.com. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you can download the resource. And we might even send you a few emails afterwards.
Just to demonstrate how the funnel works. So thank you so much, Brad. I'm wondering, I've been watching the comments. I feel like Nikki answered everybody's questions, but if anybody has any questions that they want Brad to answer now, just feel free to type them into the comments, and we'll hang out for another minute or two, and I'll keep my eye on the comments to see if any more come in. I think there's a little bit of a delay on the video, so I'm just gonna give it a minute or two.
Adam said I'm your better half.
She most certainly is my better half. That's why she's here, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Nikki.
I called out the pumpkin plan, the desert island exercise. We really like that. The how to find your right client. Who do you actually want to spend time with is a concept to some of our clients. The first thing they want to sell to everybody, and we're like, you don't want to take everybody along with you.
No. And, of course it matters what kind of business you have, right? So if you have the kind of business where you really are interacting with your clients and customers, it makes a much bigger difference than like if you're really anonymous. But even the anonymous buyers online, some of them can be difficult, right? Like you can have, we were talking about qualifiers before. You can have people who buy a low priced item who are constantly having issues with your low price item. And suddenly that item is not profitable anymore when you have people
could have a 50 or 80% return rate.
Yeah. And that could signal you have a problem with your product, but sometimes you may have customers who are consistently needing more from you than maybe you expected to have to give, right? Like customer service issues that happen over and over again with the same customers could be a red flag.
Here's a question for you. Adam has been doing cold calling for the first time himself in his business. Any tips on how to find a new list of prospects? He's currently using Instagram, and I think he says he's doing custom WordWork solutions.
Yeah.
And then can you laser in on a perfect avatar on Facebook? So I don't know if Adam, who are you cold calling? What type of client are you cold calling? They've been looking at designers, architects, builders, and looking at who they like and who their network is.
So the simple answer is absolutely yes. It would be hard for me to give you exact tips without a few questions. Yeah, who are you marketing to? So I think that's the first question is who buys your product?
So Brad, if you could tell him the questions he should be asking himself, that would be helpful.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So one, who do you want to do this? Who's the ideal client for you? Is it a business looking to do something to make things look better in there? Is it someone that lives in an upper end community that is looking for things for their house? Custom woodworking can mean a lot of things. My background is construction. My dad is great carpenter. And I know that custom woodworking can mean everything from a custom bookcase all the way to someone building fine furniture, or a wide variety of things. So knowing who that is the first question. The second question is, where are they going to look to buy? You can cold call, and if you can do that, my hat is off to you. That is
Okay.
very hard.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
go
I'm
ahead.
getting the impression, and Adam, you can confirm this, that Adam is looking to subcontract with builders. So he's cold calling builders, I think.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
impression that I got from
What
his
problem is that
avatar.
solving for them?
Yeah, so that's the next thing. What problem do you solve that they can't get elsewhere? What problem are they experiencing with their current subcontractor? So I think about, again, I have a construction and a home building background, so I can give a little bit of relevance in this. I think about, like, the different people that might come in. The main woodworking person is a trim carpenter, right? But maybe my trim carpenter, while he can put up baseboard and casing and crown molding, okay, I would never ask him to build the custom built-ins in the house. I certainly would never ask him to build something as nice as a cabinet. But maybe you provide that, and that it's hard to find somebody. As a builder, it's really hard to find somebody you can trust to build custom woodworking elements and deliver on time. That's what I do. That might be something. So knowing what the problem is will allow you to know what to say when you reach out to these people. Because you are targeting businesses, you can go make that list. You can go get that list. There are softwares online that you can, probably some that are free, most of them I say are purchased, that you can actually build a list of all the builders in an area. And then you can start calling them, you can start emailing them, you can send them direct mail. And I would look at, how do I tell them that I know they have this problem and my service is the answer to it? So yes, that's how I would approach that. And do a mixture.
I would assume that only certain builders are at a level where they're using custom woodworkers, right? So
Yeah,
you would want
the track
a
builder
very,
is not. The track builder is not
Right.
using custom woodwork. They're not even putting crown molding in the house, right? But the guy building, and so really and I'm assume that you're doing these things, but sometimes you got to go like guerrilla, and you got to go back to like the growth, and you go to the new neighborhoods. You go to the new neighborhoods where they're building the kind of houses where people put in your kind of product, and you write down names and numbers off signs. And I assume you're doing these things, but that's where you need to go. There is a ton of great builders who aren't on Instagram. And even if they have, if someone, their daughter, their wife, the marketing person they had for 10 minutes set one up, they don't check the messages. They certainly aren't using DMs to talk to people, right? These guys are out on their job sites. And so in my opinion, sometimes finding the guys on the job site and handing them your card is not the worst thing to do. Labor is in shortage right now. Skilled labor is even more of a shortage right now, so this is where it really comes into knowing that person and knowing who they are and how they operate. I wouldn't use Facebook and Instagram as a way to find those leads. I would go to the neighborhoods where they're building the houses, where they're remodeling the houses.
and look at the signs.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's like old school. It's not exciting digital work, but sometimes marketing is old school.
Well, and especially if you have a local business like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I'm assuming that Adam is not like building cabinets and sending them across the world, right? He's building custom woodworking within a certain geographic area. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and then I think, the other thought is you have to understand, like, so if that's your best client, when you chose the builder, was that your best client? Or is your product something that the home buyer needs to see? And that may change your strategy. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but you have to go through a process. And I recommend buy the pumpkin plan book if you haven't. I assume if you're on this Facebook group, you've read it, and go through the process of determining the ideal client. And if that is a builder, then use this process. If it's the homeowner, then maybe your process is a little different.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh, thank you so much for all of this great information, Brad and Nikki. I think Adam wanted to know how to get in touch with you. So I'm assuming, oh, Nikki just posted it. Okay.
Sure.
Nice having an assistant.
Yeah. a
So
boss.
Nikki's the automatic process here. She's the,
This is
it
not
just
an automation.
happens. It appears. Yeah. So, so Adam, I think he's talking about the book that he read it a year ago and could do it again. But Adam's actually a big Pumpkin Plan fan. So I
Awesome.
appreciate that Adam shows up on our calls and really contributes. So, but this has been an amazing conversation. We've been on for over an hour now. And we've still got more than 20 people with us. So we must be talking about some interesting things that are helping everybody out. So I hope that you all really took away something that will help you move a little closer to success with your marketing and your marketing funnels. And again, Brad and Nikki's website, Structured to Grow. The link is right above the video. So feel free to go over to their site and download their free giveaway. And what's the giveaway again, Brad?
Yeah, is your marketing structured to grow? So it's a
Oh.
marketing assessment for your marketing. And yeah, and if you give us your email, we'll notify you. We have an event coming up, a virtual event coming up that is 100% free, but you got to be on our list, and we'll make sure to send that invitation over, and we can continue this conversation. So.
Awesome. Okay. And if any of you like only caught part of this video and want to see the whole thing in a little bit later, it takes a few minutes to render, but the recording will be here in the group. So, and we'll be doing this again next month with another guest. So just keep your eye out for my emails and my posts in the group. I'm trying to remember who we have next month. We might be talking about pricing next month, but don't hold me to it because I forgot to check before I came on. So anyway, Brad, Nikki, it's always a pleasure. Thank you. I so appreciate that you're so willing to share all of your knowledge and answer everybody's questions. And I always feel like I learned something too. So happy marketing, everybody. And
Thank
so
you,
now, okay, so here's what I don't know how to do. I have to figure out how to stop the Facebook Live now. Okay. Oh, I see a little button that says stop live stream. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Bye.